but the more you explore the fact that by consistently reading or by consistently practicing an instrument or by consistently studying the laws of science, uh, you 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 will gradually grow in a way that's inward, that can't always be measured, but will always create fulfillment inside you, and will always give you a fascination for where you are and what you are, and why you're here. And I believe that by doing that, a person in old age can it can be a privilege. You know, it can be it can be a way of going more and more from worrying about the outer presentation of what you are, and being concerned with with uh, with with what you are on the outside, and you can gradually enrich what you are on the inside. And I think any music of any worth has been done by people who are very interested in the internal process of their soul and their mind that's taking place while they're writing music, their emotions. They've always been people who have been concerned with the process of what they do, and haven't been very concerned with what the outer result of what they're going to do is when it leaves their sphere. And I believe the more that even a great musician becomes concerned with what it is when it leaves their immediate sphere, the less contact you have with what's going on inside you, because you start to equate the music with the reaction it provokes, as opposed to what it naturally is, which is just something that takes place inside you that you have been given the gift of being able to realize and to bring into manifestation. And so I really, I guess, I've always felt strongly on just listening listening to what your imagination dictates. If your imagination, I'm the kind of person, I'll shift from liking one kind of music to liking another kind of music, to where I'll go through a period of 3 years where I'm obsessed with one kind of music, and then 3 years later I can't even imagine why I was listening to it. I'm so much in a different place, because it was just where my imagination gradually led me. Gradually the idea of listening to one thing stopped being exciting, and gradually the idea of listening to another thing seemed more exciting. And it's because I'm judging music based on its quality, and obviously, if a person was judging music based on how popular it was or something, you would tend to focus your interests around things that were popular, and you would tend to make sure that all your musical efforts were coordinated with the standards that the public sets of what's considered, the best. And I believe that kind of thing can make the imagination of a person that should be changing from one thing into the other, into having a fixed idea of what's great, and the mind should naturally just shift from one thing to the other, because that's the nature of the mind. It jumps from one thought to the other all the time. We have no control over that, but it can. I'm not going to go into that, but it's the nature of everything in reality to change from one thing into another, and our minds are doing it all the time, and there's no reason that a person shouldn't completely shift their interests from one musical form to another, or shift their idea of what the idea of a great guitarist is, or what the idea of what music should do is. It's all really natural, and to let the ideas of what society tells you, this is a great guitarist, he's number one, nobody's better than him. It's just what that ends up doing is just putting a fixed idea about something that people should never have a fixed idea about. You might, I'll go through phases where I'm studying completely, guitar players who really weren't very well practiced, but that and didn't have a lot of technique or anything, but their ideas were so strong, and the emotion that they put into what they do was so strong, and they were so unique and original that they, for that period of time, seemed better than somebody like Jeff Beck or Jimi Hendrix, or people who I also consider to be, the greatest. It's just but I can't see someone like Bernard Sumner from Joy Division as being any less than what Jimi Hendrix was. In my eyes, they're the same thing, and depending on my mood or depending on the time in my life, I'll see I'll see one as being extremely relevant to my life, and I'll see another one as having no relevance, and then it'll turn around the other way again. Um, I'm really happy that that's the way that the brain works, and that's the nature of music, is that I don't really think it's. I think only the individual can say for themselves what's good and what's worthwhile. It's these ideas that are perpetuated, where that trick us into thinking that there's some sort of a criteria for these things is ridiculous. It's only what makes you feel what you feel, and only you know that, So sometimes you got to clear your head a little bit and get away from caring about what your friends think is cool or whatever, to really listening to your subconscious and listening to your own real feelings, and deciding for yourself, what feels right to you. I said I hated music that I didn't hate. I just hated the kids who I associated it with. So when like things like Depeche Mode and stuff came out, I didn't think I liked it, and Duran Duran and stuff like that, I I knew in the back of my head that I did like the sound of it, but at the time that it came out, there was no way that I was going to make any sort of that I was even going to admit to myself that I liked it, because I was concerned about the outer appearance of what that would mean if I liked it or something, or creating some kind of a fixed identity of me as the guy who really, into the music I was into, which obviously I was also really, I was much more into than I would have been then anyways, but with whatever things like King Crimson and Genesis and Yes and stuff like that, that was where what I really related to the most, and what I felt like gave me identity. But gradually, when I did start to get into things like Depeche Mode and Duran Duran, I was like, I remember liking this when I heard it. I just didn't admit it to myself. Would have been one thing to keep it secret from other people. That's its own issue. But to not even let myself know it. I remember recording a Depeche Mode song on the radio, and then when I realized it was them, I stopped recording it. And it was I loved the sound of it, and that should have been all I was going by. I shouldn't have been concerned about, oh, these people like it who I don't like, or something like that. It's like, it's a silly way to think, and I guess I have the reverse of it. Most people like things because other people like them, and I think either way you're doing yourself an injustice, because you like everything you like for a reason. If something sounds good to you, it sounds that way for a reason, and even if you don't understand something right away, sometimes if there's some little part of your brain that says there's something healthy here, or there's something interesting here, sometimes it's important also to do that. I did that, with jazz and stuff. Like, I guess I grew up around classical music, so I didn't have an ear for jazz the way some people do when they're young, but I knew that there was something there for me, and so I learned things on my guitar and gradually developed the receptors in my brain, the emotional receptors in my brain that relate to the types of feelings and sounds and chords and melodies that are in that kind of music. And there's been so many forces working against people to come up with a fixed idea of what they like, that sometimes you kind of have to train yourself to figure out what you actually like, because it turns out I really love jazz and it really means a lot to me, but those doors hadn't been opened up in my head, or like I said, those receptors had needed to be woken up, so I really just think it's important to pay attention to the nature of the way that the brain relates to music, and to listen to every little thing it dictates in terms of how you can get more